Hi, welcome to Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustin. So I'm an energy healer, I'm a transformation coach, and I'm a shamanic practitioner. I'm also the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. So at the center, we do a variety of things. We do workshops, we have trainings, we do individual sessions for coaching and healing. And we also do once a month satsang, which is Sanskrit for in the company of the truth. So these are evenings where we just, we do some meditation, we do some chanting. You know, we're just with each other, and it's also a time for you to be with yourself and honor that part of you. So we're really open to anybody who's interested in coming. Just check out on our website, Transformation Center CT. But satsang is basically the fourth Wednesday of the month, or sometimes the fifth Wednesday of the month. So we look forward to seeing you there. So the Spiritual Connection Show, it's all about connection. It's about connecting with each other, as well as connecting more fully with our own spiritual selves. And as you know, we have a different guest every week. And so you'll have the opportunity to not only connect with them, but to learn from them about their spiritual journey, as well as what they have to offer. So we hope that you'll join us for another episode. But welcome tonight, and my guest tonight is Pete Gaycos. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Glad to be
I'm
here.
happy you could make it. We've been actually trying to get you on the show, I think, for like a year now, probably.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It feels like that anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able.
I'm really happy I could finally come.
Yeah, me too. So I'm going to just say a little bit about you for our audience because they don't really know you. So, so Pete is a psychic medium and a shamanic practitioner. What a coincidence. We have that
Two
in
of us
common.
in the same room, huh?
Yeah, how about that? That doesn't happen very often around here. So he does healing work with others, focusing on the shamanic healing.
Yep.
And he does readings and energy healing.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he does do in-person work from his location in Monroe, Connecticut.
Right.
And soon to be, we hope, also in Fairfield, Connecticut,
Right.
another
Yep.
location which is in the works.
Yep.
He also practices remotely. So if you're not
Yes.
anywhere near Connecticut,
Yep.
no worries. You can
Not
do
at
it.
all.
You can
Yep.
do it. You can do it remotely. Yeah. So that's great. And before we learn more about what you do, can you just start by telling us a little bit about how you got to where you are, your spiritual journey thus far?
Sure. Well, it started about probably close to 10 years ago. I had just gotten divorced and was feeling pretty lost. I was not in a great place for a while. And at first I thought, that was just me going through my process, healing and everything. But after a while, it just felt like it was taking too long and something felt like it wasn't right. So I started doing things to try to re-energize myself, just trying to find things that I enjoyed doing again. And then I found this meditation class and, kind of realized, hey, I've always wanted to try that, but never have. So I went to that and I loved it, kept going. And then right next door, there happened to be a psychic development class taught by a different teacher. I thought, that sounds interesting, I'll try that. Started going to that, and again, I loved it, and kind of felt like, it just felt natural to me. And then I found a shamanism teacher in New York, and I started going to her and studying with her, and then I felt myself pulled to go to a mediumship circle. And at first, I kept asking. I kind of had this voice in my head saying I should go, and I was like, "Why? I'm not a medium. Why would I go there?" And they're like, just go. And I went there, and I don't know, the first month or so, I don't think I said a word. I just sat in the circle and watched. But slowly, things started happening, and then I started studying other things: Tai Chi, Qigong. I went to Arthur Findlay Spiritualist College in England with a couple friends for a week to study mediumship more intensively. And the more and more I did, the more I was enjoying it, the more I loved it. And I realized that I've always kind of been interested in the spiritual world. Remembering that as a kid, but I never really explored it. Not on purpose, just kind of, went to, high school, college, got a job, and just, kind of moved away from it.
Yeah, well, life happens, and we all are usually kind of programmed a little bit to what we're going to do or not do. But it sounds like you found your path.
Yes. I definitely found my passion.
Your
Yes.
passion too. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So is that what you do? That's your full time. So at what point did you quit your other job or whatever you were doing before?
I was in the corporate world for 19 years. I left 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And actually, the universe gave me a kick because the company was going through waves of layoffs at the time, and and about a year or two after they started, I got caught up in that. And I did start looking for other corporate work after that, but I kept feeling myself, no, I want to do this, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I even talked to a headhunter once about a job they had listed, and somehow the conversation got on Reiki. I don't remember how that happened. And she kind of cut me off and she said, well, you're qualified, but shouldn't you do something that you love doing?
Oh my
And I
goodness.
was like, okay.
That's, another little signal there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Uh-huh.
Well, so I'm curious, have you always known that you were a medium or you had that capability or?
No. I always knew I was really sensitive. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but looking back, I feel like I'm very clairsentient, which means feeling. People who are empathic are deeply clairsentient, so they feel the emotions of others. They feel the energy behind actions, words, behaviors of other people. And I remember being that way as a kid. I would see people, being mean to each other or experience, that with myself personally, and it would hurt me really deeply. Cried a lot as a kid. I always knew I was very sensitive, but I wasn't seeing orbs or apparition, things like that. So, and I always thought, because that's what kind of Hollywood and culture tells us a medium is. I always thought, well, I'm not a medium because I don't see things.
It's not like it looks on TV or whatever.
But actually, most mediums, at least in the beginning, don't see. There's lots of different ways to sense energy, and some mediums do see things right away. They have a natural knack for that. Mine wasn't that. So it took me a while to realize that my sensitivity was more feeling, hearing a little bit, kind of knowing. And so when I started going to the mediumship circle, I didn't really know what I was doing. And the teachers can only help you so much, because everybody, just like any other skill or job, everybody does mediumship in their own unique way. So a teacher can look at you and kind of point you in the right direction, but you have to kind of figure out how to open up those senses on your own in order for it to work well for you.
So does it just take practice?
A lot of practice, yeah. Meditation helps a lot too, I feel. And you don't have to meditate to do the work, but it helps still the mind so that it makes room for you to sense those other ethereal energies that are out there.
Yeah, no, that just makes sense. It creates that space
Exactly.
for other things to come in.
Exactly, yes.
And it creates a channel, too, where you can easily access, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about, I don't know if people are that familiar with how it works, how do you practice with people? I mean, what does it look like when you're doing it?
Yeah. Well, I can do psychic reading, or psychic intuitive, or mediumship reading, which is connecting with the energy of a loved one who has passed, whereas the psychic reading is just connecting with the energy of the person or the energy that they have around another person or a situation. And they can often blend together too. It's pretty often I'll be talking about a person and they might bring up a grandmother or a parent or somebody or a friend, or sometimes I'll feel them come in. And so, bring them up and,
Yeah.
we'll be kind of in the middle of a conversation and then like, oh, wait, your grandmother just
How's-
came in. She says, hold on.
She has something to say,
Yes.
right? What a surprise,
Right.
right? If it were my grandmother, she'd definitely have something to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people, when they contact you, they're not really sure what they're looking for, or do they have, or it varies, like,
Yeah, it varies. I mean, some people have done it before, so they kind of know. And it's interesting when they come in and they do a reading, and I'll say, "Oh, your grandfather's here," and they'll say, "Oh, God, he always comes."
yeah.
But some people don't know, and they either want to just experience it, or they say things like, I don't know, I've never done this before, but I felt like I should do it, so I don't know how it works, and then they kind of depend on me to kind of steer a little bit, and usually try to start people off a little gradually when they do that, and
Yeah.
just try to. Usually, my first question to people is, "Well, how can I help you?"
Yeah.
Because typically, when a
Yeah.
person comes to get a reading, I mean, sometimes it's just for the experience, but most of the time they're going through something,
Yeah.
and they're looking for some guidance, they're looking for some help.
Yes.
They're looking for a person who isn't wrapped up in the emotion of what they're going through and can give them, a little clearer picture.
And that's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also somebody who they know has their best interest.
Right.
in-
Yeah.
in-
Well, that's
in
another
heart.
important thing. You have to trust the psychic or the medium that
Yeah.
you're seeing.
Right.
It's really huge to do that.
Right. And my understanding is because my father's best friend was a medium.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. After my mother passed away, it was his best friend, and so I worked with her quite a bit.
Okay.
And what she shared with me was that there's no, she's not going to give me any negative
Right.
information
Right.
or messages. I mean, the other side, they just don't do that.
Right.
It's all for your highest and best good.
Exactly.
And so there's nothing to be frightened of, or, and you can't even really ask them those types of questions
Right.
because they're not going to address it. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Because of Hollywood, everything is over dramatized, including spiritual work.
Yeah.
So people are afraid that
Right.
something's going to come out of the
Yeah.
shadows and influence them in some negative way. But
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Everything that comes through, if the person is doing it the right way, the sacred way, everything that comes through is in a very positive way.
Yeah, it's very beneficial. I mean,
Yes.
I found it extremely uplifting and just so, I don't know what even the word to describe, but it's just so beneficial is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
It adds a whole other layer to your life and your knowingness
Yes.
and your confidence in who you are and what you're up to.
Right. Well, to know that, when a medium or a psychic gives you information or, reads something about you that there's no way they would know,
Yeah.
it's a validation and a confirmation to you that there is something bigger out there,
Yeah.
bigger than us, much bigger than us. And actually, we're part of that. I mean, we all come
Yeah.
from that, so we are part of that big energy that's
Yeah.
out there. And maybe that's a comforting thing too, to know that we're not alone. We're all part of this collective.
Yeah, we're all part of it and it's part of us.
Right.
And also to know that we, like when you said we're validated by, in a way, we're validated by ourselves.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Well, I think deep down we all want to believe that, or we all do believe that we are part of something like that is there.
Yeah.
But, I think some people get doubts about that, especially when they start going through hard times.
Yeah.
And so getting that information or getting encouragement from a loved one who has passed, and oftentimes just hearing that the loved one says they're in a good place and they're okay, that is so comforting to people.
Yes,
Sometimes
yes.
that's all they need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, the comforting. I
Yeah.
think that was the other word I was searching for before. It's so comforting
Yeah.
to have that and, to know that that you can access it.
Right.
And you have someone who can help you do that. I
Right.
mean, prayer is great, and I think it's
Absolutely.
wonderful. And that's
Yes.
another way to do it.
Absolutely.
But this is a little bit more direct, perhaps.
Yes. Well,
It's different.
they're one and the same,
different,
really.
yeah.
They are. I
Yeah.
worked with a teacher once who used to be a nun, and she actually left when she started doing mediumship for some of the parishioners because the church didn't agree with it.
Oh.
And her point of view was, well, it wasn't a problem when I was talking to Jesus, but now it's a problem when I'm talking to this person's grandmother who's passed and giving them
Oh.
healing messages.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Huh. No, that's absolutely right. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Other people don't necessarily see it that way.
Right.
So if somebody comes to you, do they have a specific loved one who's passed that they want to communicate with, or do
That's
you,
a good question. Yes, yeah, that happens often. I actually prefer that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come and they say, oh, I don't know, whoever wants to come through, let them come through. And all mediums work differently, but for me, I prefer it when they say, yeah, I'd like to talk with my grandmother or my grandfather or my friend or my
Right.
whomever. And at that point, we'll start talking. I say, okay, well, let's start talking about that person. And I tell them I can't guarantee it, but more often than not, when we start talking about that person, I mean, it's kind of like calling them in.
Yeah.
Not kind of, it is. It's calling
Yeah.
them in.
Uh-huh.
And I'll sense them coming. And I'll say, okay, I'm sensing, this person coming in. If it's a grandmother, it definitely
Yeah.
feels like a grandmother. And I'm seeing curly hair. I'm seeing, playing cards, and she's wearing a house dress and all.
Yeah.
And when you start giving things, and she's really cheerful and everything, and when I start giving evidence like that, you can see kind of a smile
Yeah.
building on their face, like, yep, that's her.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's almost like becoming a channel. Like, if they have questions, and I'll, answer those. She'll answer those through me, and well, that's the thing. Spirit does all the work.
Yeah. You're just the conduit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful service
Yeah,
that
I
you
love doing it.
provide. Yeah. So my father's best friend also passed away. So
Oh.
so I'm gonna have to come visit you because I'm realizing that I kind of miss that.
So did you guys do that often when she would come over, or when you would see her?
Well, she lives in, my dad and she both lived in Baton Rouge,
Okay.
Louisiana, which is where I grew up.
Yeah.
So whenever I would go, which was usually not more than twice a year, usually once or twice a year, so
Okay.
not very often, but often enough to
Yeah.
where,
You look forward to it.
it was, yeah, I look forward to it, yeah, and I miss her too, but yeah, so I'll have to check, maybe I could reach her through,
We could-
see how
we
she's
can work
doing.
on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's super, Pete. So why don't we shift topics a little bit, since you
Okay.
also do a lot of work in your shamanism.
Yeah, I love doing
practice.
shamanism work. Yeah.
So for our audience that's not familiar, do
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk a little bit about, just describe what it is or
Sure.
what you do?
Well, I think if you look up shamanism on Google, it talks about, it's a practice where a shaman or a shamanic practitioner basically reaches an altered state of consciousness, which is basically a fancy way of saying a deep meditation, in order to shift between our reality, which we call ordinary reality, and the spirit world, which is non-ordinary reality.
Right.
And going to non-ordinary reality, the spirit world, in order to interact with spirit teachers, spirit guides, spirit helpers, to gain wisdom, to gain clarity, healing, whatever the person needs.
Yeah.
And then bringing that back, and it's brought back in the form of energy. So it could be brought back, like empowerment, for example, could be brought back in the form of a spirit animal energy or soul retrieval energy,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you help people find their power animal or their spirit animal? Do
Yeah.
you do that too?
Absolutely, yeah.
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 Yeah. That's always
One
cool,
night-
isn't it?
What's that?
It's always cool to do that.
It's
People
always
love that.
fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was first learning how to do that, I asked a friend at work, and I didn't tell very many people at the time, but this one friend, she and I were close, and I trusted her, and I told her about it, and she said, "Well, my boyfriend and I want to try that. Would you be willing to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And as the week built, like she's like, "Oh, so and so wants to try it. So and so."
Oh my goodness.
It turned into a party. We had 9 people who wanted to do it in one night.
Must have been a little exhausting.
It was. Well, actually, I was wired afterwards. Usually, I'm wired after doing spiritual work.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and then I was exhausted after the
crash.
Yeah, after the adrenaline wore off.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was actually really fun because everybody that got their animal and we talked about it, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I find people find it really helpful to have that. Even if they don't go any further into it, just to have that.
Yeah.
That spirit guide, that spirit animal.
Right.
And, yeah. So you do mainly solo now. I mean, that was a group experience,
Right.
but do you do mainly solo?
Well, I did them one at a time. I did their spirit animals one at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's
Well, yeah, for
in terms of healings and
most healings are done individually.
Mm-hmm.
The group work with shamanism that I do are mostly workshops.
Okay. How
So-
does that work? Do you want to describe that?
Well, I just talk
Crazy.
about the origins of shamanism, the history of it,
Mm-hmm.
how it talk about kind of how it fits in with our modern world,
Mm-hmm.
all of the tenets of it that come from tens of thousands of years ago, how they're
Yeah.
still applicable today.
Right.
And then I'll drum for them and
Yeah.
guide them through doing a journey
So
to
you
give them
take
a
them on a
taste.
journey.
Yeah,
Okay,
to give
cool.
them let them get a feel for what that's like, to explore it, to see if it resonates with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll also do group drum circles,
Mm-hmm.
and those we just do a little meditation to start, and then just kind of let the energy flow through the drum and
Yeah.
bang away and have fun with it.
I love it, don't you?
Yeah,
It's
I
so
do.
Awesome. And everybody that I've worked with is also, they love it too.
Yeah. It's fun. There's so many people that come that have never done it before. Then
Mm-hmm.
after they do it, they have these huge smiles on their face, and
Yeah.
the resonance and the vibration of the drum. It feels really good. People really like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the center, we haven't done much yet, but the plan is to, well, first of all, do some experiences, what we're calling shamanic experiences,
Okay.
where it's just similar to what you're describing, where you do some drumming, you get people to do it and, do a little journeying,
Yeah.
just have a little taste of it. And then the other thing that we're going to bring, we're calling a shamanic clinic.
Oh.
And maybe you might be interested in participating.
Yeah.
Because
I
they're
think I
doing
would.
it up at another part of our group has a center in Rochester.
Okay.
And they've been doing it where 3 or 4 practitioners come and everybody gets a turn but separate. So they sign up in advance for like a 20, 30-minute little mini healing, if you will.
Okay.
And it's usually not time for soul retrieval, but we do a lot of extraction healing.
Okay. Yep. That's
And
part of the
we'll
healing
go in
idea.
separate rooms or divide the room into sections.
Yep.
Yeah, so if
I
you're
would love to,
interested to
yeah.
be one of those practitioners, and there'll be a small fee for that,
Yeah.
obviously, but we feel like it's a service for people who maybe don't have time to do a longer session, or they just want to learn about it,
Right.
if they haven't experienced it.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I
Okay,
mean,
I'll
usually
keep
the
you
one-on-one
posted.
healings that I do, they first involve drumming and some chanting, and I find that just helps loosen the energy up.
Yeah,
Helps things lift off a little easier. And then after that, the extraction ceremony that you talked about, which is basically just clearing out any energy that would be beneficial for them to be cleared
Right.
out.
yeah,
And then after that clearing, I like to do some direct energy healing
yes.
and just channel some white light into the
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And then after that, then the empowerment ceremony, which is
Okay.
usually either a spirit animal retrieval or a soul retrieval.
Okay, I see. So it varies what that
Yeah.
person needs, or
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I don't get a sense of it in the middle of the healing, I'll ask spirit when it comes to that part. What are we doing? And
yeah.
it always happens. But it feels like bringing that empowerment back. It solidifies the person's true self energy.
Yeah.
So it helps bring them back into balance,
Yeah.
which is really what the work is all about.
I was going to say that's exactly what it's all about.
helping the person come back into balance. Because in the shamanic view, we start having issues or illnesses or whatever, anxiety, whatever we're feeling, because the root of it is usually there's some sort of imbalance with the person.
Yeah,
And then when there's an imbalance with the person, there becomes an imbalance with the world around them, all those energies around them. So usually you've got to start with yourself. So
Yeah.
these healings are all meant to do that.
Yeah. No, it's great that we have that available to us, isn't it? And so a lot of times you do your workshops up in Ridgefield at the
Yes.
The Angel
At
Cooperative?
the Angel Cooperative in Richfield, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great retail store. I just like wandered in there one day. It was really funny. And one of the other practitioners and I started talking, and I mentioned that I was also a practitioner, and so we were both just talking about what we do. And then she introduced me to one of the owners, Christy, and before I knew it, Christy and I talked a couple times, and I was working there, doing readings and healings, and
That's awesome.
and she has other practitioners that work there. We all do different sorts of things, tarot and Reiki, and so I'll do workshops there. And usually they're shamanism workshops. We are going to do another one next month in July. That's going to be building turkey feather fans for smudging and blessings and things like that.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, the introduction to shamanism workshop has been going on there, and I've loved doing that.
Yeah, you do that regularly.
Yep, it's been usually every month or two so far.
Get a good response.
Yeah, we
that's
do.
awesome.
I mean, there's always a different group of people, but it's interesting. Some people have some experience with shamanism, others have zero, and they just come because they feel called to it.
Yeah, I'm just curious about what.
Yeah, but yeah, they've always gone well. Everybody usually enjoys it and has a good experience with the journey work. And,
Yeah, so people can just go on the Angel Cooperative website to find out when the next one is? Or?
Yep. They can go on the Angel Cooperative website, which is theangelcoop.com, or my website, PeteGakos.com, and there's lists of
You do it
events
on both.
Yep.
Yeah. And aren't you also there during the week, mornings, Tuesday and Wednesdays sometimes?
Yes. So I work there Tuesday mornings from 9 to 12, Wednesday mornings from 9 to 1, and doing psychic medium readings with customers, doing shamanic healings. And sometimes people come in and they're not sure what they want, and it almost turns into like this intuitive therapy session, for lack of a better word. Because I wouldn't call it mediumship, but I'm kind of picking up intuitively on things going on in their life, and I'm also picking up on them, empathically, what they're feeling. And I'm like, well, it feels like what you really want is this. And if they're saying, well, I'm trying to decide between a couple things, and I'm really torn, and so that happens too. And
That's great.
and that can happen with either people who just walk in the store. Sometimes they just feel pulled to do it, or people make appointments also.
That's great. So people can just come and they don't necessarily know what they're looking for.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I guess some people probably know you're there, some people don't, and it just varies, right?
Yes, some people. I mean, and we've had people that come from out of town and they just pop into the store and not really sure. And then there's regular clients, regular customers.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but before that, is there anything else that you want to share that, like what's important to you, or anything else that you want people to know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I look at this work is everything is energy. We're energetic beings. We just happen to have a physical body. Our words are energy. Our thoughts are energy. Everything around us is made of energy.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And so the way I look at it is just doing readings or shamanism or energy healing like Reiki or anything like that. It's all just different ways of
accessing that.
Different ways of accessing and working with the energy.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Pete. I learned
Thank you.
so much.
I loved it.
This was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
And thank you to our audience for joining us tonight on this episode of Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustine, signing off. Good night and blessings. See you next time. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun, huh?
Thank you.
And they go by fast.